Hey, I thought it would be good to jump on here and talk about immune system stuff. Anytime I post anything about supplements or what you can do for your immune system, I get a lot of messages back that say, "Hey, what should I take, and what do you use, and what do you recommend?" So I'm going to go into it a little bit. The first thing I recommend is that you get enough sleep. And so the reason this is important, and I'll tell you for sure, for years, I was an idiot. And I can say this with full confidence because I was one of these people that felt like I could get by on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I was whatever. And the truth of the matter is, that is not true. In fact, Dr. Matthew Walker, if you get a chance to read this book, Why We Sleep by Dr. Walker, this is a fantastic book, and it talks about what the importance of sleep is. Additionally, how most of us are chronically sleep deprived. So 99% of the planet needs about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. In 2 or 3 consecutive nights that you don't get that amount of sleep, your immune system is deprived, and you are basically in a sleep deprived state. That's a CDC recommendation. So that is the first thing you do. You have to sleep enough. You can take every supplement under the sun, but if you are chronically sleep deprived, your chance of getting something is going to be higher because your immune system is simply not functioning as well as it should. So we start off with sleep. The second thing is you want to eat a diet that is whole food based. And what I mean by that is, I don't care if you're a vegan, I don't care if you're whatever, carnivore, paleo, whatever. Eat real food. And what I mean by this is, if it has 15 ingredients, it's probably not something that you should be eating. So when you eat broccoli, it's got one ingredient, it's broccoli. When you eat steak, it's got one ingredient, it's steak. Or potato, it's rice, it's cauliflower, it's carrots, it's whatever. Now, you can make a soup combining many of these things, but the real thing is that you eat a whole food diet. Eating your diet that is mostly consisting of processed foods, corn-based foods, a lot of processed fats, all of this stuff is not ideal, and it's going to lead to more sickness, more debilitating illnesses, and all of that. So we need to go back to that. Okay, so in terms of that, the other thing is, and I'm going to get flack for this, but I don't care, is the sun. So when the sun is out, get in the sun. Yes, it can damage your skin if you do too much. If you're wearing a lot of sunscreen, you could stay out too long, you can overexpose yourself. 15 to 20 minutes of sun exposure on your arms and legs whenever it's available is a really, really solid recommendation for most people. Now, if you have skin conditions, skin cancer, you've had things scraped off you, cut off you, burned off you, try not to expose that area to a lot of sun. Even a little sun's okay. The reason that sun isn't just vitamin D is because it activates anti-cancer genes, and it activates parts of your basic genetic material that allows you to be healthier. Ideally, you get your sun while sitting on the ground, while laying on the ground, while grounded in some way, because human beings are actually electrical. This gets really deep, but the human genome has evolved under the sun for thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years. So the idea that the sun is something bad for us is sort of ridiculous. So a smart sun exposure is a really, really good thing to do. All right, first supplement. Here we go. This is vitamin D. Why vitamin D? Okay, and I'm going to go even further. This is the company I use, and I don't sell this. I don't make any money from this. This is the only one I use. It's by a company called Biotech Pharmacal. Here's why I like it. The capsule is a powder. It's a micronized powder. So it is very fine and very highly digestible. So as you take this, the absorption is very, very high. You can also, if you have children, you can take this and open this up and put a little bit in their food, their drink, or whatever. So you don't have to give somebody the big dose. Now, I like the big dose. I take one capsule that's about 50,000 IUs once per week, especially in the winter. In the summer, if I'm getting a lot more sun, I'll take less. But this is an amount that is known to be effective in getting your levels up and then keeping them up. Why vitamin D? So why am I not talking about vitamin C first? Well, the reason is vitamin D directly impacts your immune system. So it stimulates activity of a couple different immune cells. One of them is called the macrophages. That's Latin for big eater. And what that does is it comes in and it eats stuff up that's not supposed to be there. It helps to clean up stuff, debride stuff. It's a big cleaner out. So it's very active in the lungs. Macrophages are always being activated in the lungs, specifically because you breathe stuff in all the time. So when you breathe in dirty air, whatever, you're having macrophage activity. It also activates monocytes and neutrophils. So these are all parts of your immune system, the white blood cells. And so now I put up a little study here in both of my groups about the people who were more likely to be diagnosed with ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome. They show that they were vitamin D deficient. So now I guess that's a good time to talk about this because there's this thing happening called COVID-19. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. Has anybody heard of that? So, but the main target tissue is really the lungs. So we want to get our bodies, our fortress, as strong as possible. So a healthy body will repel sickness. And that's the thing I think that people, the point that they miss is you have to build the fortress as strong as you can, be as healthy as you can, so that if you get exposed to something and you get sick, let's say you get sick, that it's a mild illness. It's not an incapacitating illness. People get sickest when their resources are lowest. So it's when you're not sleeping well, your nutrition is bad, you may be under a lot of stress, whatever it is, and then you get sick and that really wipes you out. And that's the difference. Some people are going to get in contact with this and they may have a much more potent immune activity and they may have a very mild illness, and some people may have a very grave and serious illness. It might be medications they're taking. For example, if you're taking ibuprofen or immune suppressive medications, these elevate your chances of getting ill because you're suppressing your immune response. So while we're on that, we go into the next thing, which is fever. You really don't want to suppress a fever unless it's very high. For the most part, a fever is a very effective, highly evolved mechanisms that human beings have created in response to illness and pathogens. So by increasing the temperature, you increase the speed at which your immune system works, and you also weaken the agents that are the pathogens that are coming inside of you. So you're like turning up the heat on them in two directions. You're breaking them down faster, and you're causing their rate of reproduction to slow down as you heat up your environment. So suppressing a fever is not really the smartest thing to do. Now, if it gets crazy out of hand, it's over 104 or so degrees, yeah, you could bring it down, but I wouldn't take ibuprofen. And in fact, they've shown now that people who are taking ibuprofen while sick with this condition have a lot poorer outcome. So don't take a bunch of ibuprofen. Next thing, vitamin A. And you'll notice it's the same company. Why vitamin A? So vitamin A, the big part about vitamin A is it's very important to the mucous membranes. So what are the mucous membranes? They are in your mouth and your nose and your sinuses and your throat. Where does the virus come into your body? There. That's the point of entry. So what you want to do is have adequate vitamin A levels. Everybody thinks of vitamin A, if they think of it at all, they think about it for their eyes. but it's powerful anti-inflammatory. It's potent in the lung. It's potent in the mucous membrane. So having low vitamin A levels is also a problem. So I like the big dose again. And so basically what this is, 25,000 IUs, and I may take one of these a week. And if I feel like something's coming on, I may take a little. And I may actually do the same with this. These are the only ones that I buy, and these are the only ones I give my family. And again, I make nothing on this. So I don't care if you buy it or not. Buy it, don't buy it, I don't care. So vitamin A is crucially important there. The other thing I like to talk about is zinc. So zinc has lots of activity in the immune system as well, considered crucially important. You don't need a lot of it. It also supports good hormone levels for both men and women, so you need a certain amount of zinc to do things hormonally in your body. So that's something that we talk about quite a bit in different groups and things. But so you need zinc, and it does a lot of things for your immune system. So these are just things that are in general things I recommend every flu season. These are things you don't want to be deficient in. Now, this can go down the rabbit hole. This can be talking about a bazillion different herbs and this and that and the other things. But the reality of it is the things that you need to build the fortress, the A, the D, the zinc, these are all things that your body absolutely must have. If you don't have it, if you're deficient, this makes you more susceptible to illness. All right, so another thing. So this is more along the lines, if you feel like you're getting maybe a sore throat or something like that, or you feel like you're getting a little run down or you're a little ill, iodine. So I've given these people this trick. I have videos on YouTube about iodine, and I like to read lots of nerd books about different things. So I do a lot of this stuff all the time. But iodine is something that you can use because it's got a multiple pathogen effectiveness. So iodine will kill parasites. It will kill bacteria, it will kill fungus, it will kill viruses. So if you throw some little bit of Lugol's or something in some water and you gargle it, it can help to wipe out stuff that's in your throat, like your tonsils. I actually use this in a nasal mist, and if I feel like something's going on way back in what's called the nasopharynx. So if you've seen how they test people for COVID, they take that long swab and they stick it way back up. So what they're doing is they're swabbing what's called the nasal pharynx. It's way up back in there. I actually have a skull back there, but I don't feel like taking it down. So anyway, it's the nasopharynx, so it's way up in there. So they're swabbing that. So if you take some iodine, some Lugol's, and you put this in a saline mist and you breathe it in, you can actually bring that mist in down through all of your sinuses, coat your nasopharynx, and then go into your throat. And that will have its multiple effects inside the sinus, inside the nasopharynx. It'll wipe down, it'll kill viruses, it'll kill bacteria, it'll kill fungus, it'll kill all kinds of stuff. And so I have a video on YouTube. If you Google it, you'll find it. There are a lot of people watched it. There's a lot of questions on it. So that's one thing. In general health, another thing, and this is for the cell membrane, is fish oil. So the reason I like fish oil, your cells, they have this outer covering, and it's made of a lipid layer. Incidentally, both vitamin A and vitamin D are fat soluble, which means they live in this lipid layer. So this lipid layer is the outer membrane of a cell. It kind of is the gateway of things that come in and out of the cell. So if your cell membranes are not healthy, and that comes from eating bad food, highly processed fats and oils, a lot of polyunsaturated fats, a lot of trans fats, basically a lot of junk and processed food, your cell membrane is not going to be as healthy. So it's not going to exchange waste, and not going to bring in good stuff as effectively as a healthy cell membrane. So it's always best to get the foods that contain these things, but since we're talking about, trying to armor ourselves up against some kind of invasion, these are the things we used as ammunition to strengthen the fortress. But so you want some essential fatty acids in here. This is a high potency one. I like it. You can get nearly all of these things. You might not be able to get this on Amazon, but these you definitely get on Amazon, and they're inexpensive. Like the vitamin D that I buy is $25, and there's 100 capsules, and I take one a week. So that's 2 years. So that's the cheapest health insurance you could ever buy. You just take one, and you give it to, tell your kids to take one. When my kids were younger, I used to give it to them before sports performances, because most people don't know about vitamin D is it's actually a hormone and it's not a vitamin. So it does have some interesting properties as far as strength and other things that are concerned. Eventually I started giving to them, and then eventually they said, I stopped giving to them, and they started asking for it. Hey, Dad, can I get one of those vitamin D? Where do you have those? So they were like, because they're noticing things that I'm not even telling them. They're like, yeah, I feel stronger. I play better. I don't know. So I kind of think it has something to do with it's like the storage molecule for sunlight. So we are kind of a bit solar powered. I know this is kind of like woo-woo, but we are. There's been studies that show that the mitochondria, which is like this strange mutant bacteria that lives in our cell, is kind of solar powered. So all this stuff is kind of pulls together. But so we have essential fatty acids, we have vitamin A, we have zinc, we have all of these different things that build the fortress. So when you go out into the world, you are going to be under attack. Right now, as we speak, there's trillions of bacteria, viruses, mold. There's all kinds of stuff on us, in us, all the time. So we're always having an attack. We're always under attack. It's not just now that there's a virus that's out there that wants to harm us. It's all the time. It's 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week. It's 365 days a year. So your body is always doing its job. The immune system is always working. That's why you're not always ill. Because if it were simply a matter of having a bad thing out there that would make you sick, and you came in contact with it and you got sick, you'd be always sick. So this is not true. So we just need to build a fortress and let the host, us, be a very inhospitable place for a bad guy to come and set up shop. So the stronger we make us, the less of a hospitable environment we are for a virus or a bacteria or a fungus or whatever it is. And so this is how some people walking around don't get sick. You know, they don't get every little thing that comes down the pipe. They're not being concerned about it. And other people, they're chronically sleep deprived, their nutrition is terrible, and all of these other things are wrong, and their fortress, their walls are broken down already. So a virus blows in the wind and comes in their nasal pharynx, and boom, they're sick. So we build up the fortress as much as we actually can. And that's the methodology that we want to use to try to keep our body optimally healthy. So that's like the basic primer on immune system that I think is useful. There's much more. It's much more complicated than this. I'm not an expert. I'm not an immunologist. I'm just a person who likes to try to help people stay optimally healthy. So if you have questions or anything, leave them in this. I will try to answer them. I will try to respond as best I can. If you have a question, it's probably best to leave it in the actual video rather than sending it to me privately, because if you have a question, chances are that other people have the same question. So if you have a question, leave it. I'll try to answer it, give you advice the best I can to see what we can do. But stay healthy out there. Two more things. One is wash your hands frequently, and don't touch your face. And these are two hard things to do as far as like not touching your face. I mean, wash your hands is easy, but touching your face. So you touch your face a lot. I mean, you don't realize it, but you do. And that's how you introduce things into your face. So wash your hands frequently. Try to get sleep. You know, everybody is stressed. Everybody is freaked out. Everybody is scared. Everybody is frightened. And it is frightening and it's concerning and people are getting sick. It's not a phony thing. But there's so much that you can do about being worried about it. And the rest of it is just build the fortress, stay optimally healthy, make yourself inhospitable for a bad guy. So that's what your job is to do, build the fortress. And, you know, try not to have a lot of bad destructive habits. I mean, eating bad food, you know, and doing all this stuff, you know, it's just making you weaker and more susceptible. So that's it. Again, if you have questions, leave them in this. And if it's something really individual or something very private, go ahead and send me a private message. But otherwise, just leave it in here and I'll try to answer all the questions. All right, thanks. And have a good night. And look at this. It's a Friday night and all of us nerds are stuck at home and listening to this stuff. So what a time it is. Take care. Bye.